I have a problem. It's the kind of problem that sits in the corner, collects dust, makes everyone who comes into my house uncomfortable. I'm sure a number of you watching can relate. This one is a Windows 7 HP workstation I got from someone at work. I tested it and it works just fine, but I'm not sure what to do with it. This is my home server that I built from e-waste parts and stuff I had laying around. It's pretty great, though it may be severely overspec'd for what I want to do with it. Not to mention the CPU cooler and the hard drives are spilling out the side. It doesn't fit in the case. And then there's this compact Windows Vista PC I got running in another video. It was my mom's workstation for 20 years and one of the last things I have of hers. So I'm glad it works, but again, I don't know what to do with it. But this is Retro Reverie. The motto of this channel is no device left behind. That's because this channel embodies my love for saving old tech from the e-waste piles and landfills, to prove that even the old and obsolete can be useful or fun. Something would come, some idea for how these machines could be useful in the future. Then I got these comments.
The nice thing about AMD 64 is that it can understand 64-bit instructions. So even though it only has a single core, it can run 64-bit operating systems, like Linux.
I actually have this old motherboard with a Phenom 2 X4B97, 8GB of RAM, and a GTX 960. It runs pretty well for an old compact PC.
But these were only the seeds of the idea. So more time would go on, and eventually a game that I wishlisted on Steam years ago finally moved into early access. Look at the recommended specs. This thing will run on a TI-83. I have an old system that runs 64-bit programs. It just needs a little bit of love. So without further delay, today on Retro Reverie, we're going to find out how old and slow of a computer can play the new game Wizardium, or as I like to call it, Wizard Doom. But before we get into it, these videos are not sponsored, and they take a lot of time and work to create. If you found this video informative or enjoyable, please consider contributing to my Ko-Fi page, because even a little bit helps me out a ton. If you would like to support in a free way, a subscription and liking the video is always welcome and helpful as well. Back to the video. This build is based on the inners from a compact Presario SR5130NX, released in 2010 with the backing of HP, and priced around $500. It was received with mediocre reviews, which praised it for its decent price to performance and upgradability, but was criticized for having only 2 DIMM slots, 1GB of dual-channel RAM, and coming packed with the usual HP bloatware. Regardless of what people thought of it back in the day, we're interested in the AMD 64X2 3800+. A dual-core 64-bit processor released in 2006. Quote-unquote the minimum processor for a modern PC, according to PC Magazine writer Joe Santo Domingo in his article about the device when it was new. And I'm sure we'll be proving that statement true with this experiment. One of the main goals behind this project was to thin out the random desktops I had sitting in the corner. The first thing I did was strip the components from the HP. I pulled out the AMD Radeon ATI 6450 graphics card. It has a powerful 1GB of dedicated video RAM, which by today's standards is completely Mesozoic, though it will be an absolute ogre in this system. Another donation from the HP is a CD-ROM drive, which will be useful for installing an OS and classic games. The next step was to take the server components out of the overstuffed case that can't contain it all, because it will actually be a perfect fit for the Wizard Tower. Lastly, I stripped out what I wanted from the compact Presario, the motherboard, processor, and power supply. I ordered a pair of 2GB G.Skill DDR2 modules, but I can't seem to find them for the life of me. Thankfully, I was given another pair of 2GB DDR sticks from a family member. Okay, something's wrong. Alright, research time. As it turns out, this board has trouble with modules that are more than 1 gigabyte in capacity. It also says that it's not compatible with double-sided DIMMs. I don't think anything that I have other than what came with the Presario is going to work. We'll find an upgrade later. It's a problem for another day. With all that being said, I'm just going to let the build play. We'll come back at the end. After everything is plugged up and screwed in, it's time to add in the drive. A 120GB PNY SATA solid-state drive, for no other reason than to save it from the trash and give the Wizard Tower the best shot at running a game released in 2023. To test that everything is working, I installed Windows Vista, the OS that came preloaded on the Presario originally. I ran into some issues with the disk. Previously, it was loaded with Linux Mint, which was installed with UEFI booting, which the motherboard isn't compatible with. It turned out to be a simple fix with the use of the command line and the diskpart function. I've never had to use diskpart before, so it was a good learning experience to repair and convert my drive to MBR to get it to work with the installer. Weirdly enough, even after converting the drive, the installer didn't want to install on the volume, but after a reboot it worked just fine. Strange. I also ran into a significant issue with the Windows Vista copy protection. The first time around I selected the Ultimate Edition and opted not to enter a product key. The key that I had for my box only works with upgrading from previous versions of Windows, which is obviously not what I'm doing, and it only worked for Home Premium, so it wasn't what I needed here. I found that the first time I restarted the computer, I couldn't do anything until I provided a key, and the keys I found online wouldn't be accepted due to the requirement for a network connection to authenticate. I ended up reinstalling Vista and provided a key for the Ultimate up front, and haven't had any issues since. I installed 2 games to test out the ATI graphics driver, Planescape Torment and Fallout. Both of them played like a dream, though neither of the games seemed to enjoy the native resolution of my Dell CRT monitor. This is an issue I had on my XP machine as well. Not really sure why. Overall, I found Windows Vista to be snappy and solid experience. The 90s isometric games I love so much play great, and I can definitely see myself genuinely using this device to play through them. But this is not a video about a Vista gaming PC. We need this to be 64-bit. The disc I had on hand only included a 32-bit version, and I needed to wait for my blank DVDs to arrive to get to the true goal of this project, to run and play with Zordon. Not only that, but I need to trace down suitable RAM upgrades, as the minimum spec is 2000 megabytes. Since you can't exactly pick up DDR2 from Micro Center these days, all I was able to source was a single stick of Patriot 1GB DDR2, upgrading the previous configuration from 1GB to 1.5GB. It's an improvement, technically, it's the best we have now, so we need to make do. After a lot of thought about which 64-bit OS to install, the logical conclusion I came to was to install Debian 12 with the LXDE desktop. It's really lightweight, it's up to date with security so I can put it online without any issues. It is said, after all, that Debian will run on anything, maybe even that TI-83. The Debian installation went perfect from an install disk without any issues. Once I got into LXDE, it was another story. I spent an embarrassing amount of time messing about in the terminal. I was having trouble simply just using apt update and apt upgrade, and I had to manually add my user account into the sudoers config file. I don't really know why this was a problem right out the gate. I wouldn't say I'm new to Linux, but I'm not a regular Linux user, and every time I approach a Linux system, I kind of have to relearn everything as I go. And so because of that, installing Steam was a nightmare. I first tried using Flatpak as I thought it might be easier on the system. After maybe an hour or so, I finally got the FlatHub version of Steam installed, but there is no force on this planet powerful enough that could get it to launch on this computer. Then I tried a few other traditional routes with apt, and eventually found that for some reason my dependencies for Steam weren't installed, despite that I had already done that when I installed Debian fresh. So I just did it all again from scratch, and after doing it again for like the 5th or 6th time, Steam was running. Once it was running, though, I had to reset my password because if I'm putting it on YouTube, it can never be easy. Then I configured Steam to run all games with Proton, restarted Steam, and started to install with Zordom. The install took a really long time for a game that's not even half a gigabyte large. This time, however, I think it was actually just the throttling from the CPU rather than the Jurassic era internet speeds I have coming in from a phone line, for once. With WizZordom installed, I hit start. Then I hit it again because running Steam is just too much for the poor Wizard Tower to handle. We are at the moment of truth. Oh, it's terrible. Oh, this is horrible. This is unplayable. But it runs. Yeah, this is pretty much like when Action Retro runs Minecraft on a Power PC. But I'm not going to give up. Debian 12 is a really snappy experience, even on this system with a 20-year-old CPU and 1.5 gigabytes of RAM. Something has to work. I noticed that with my main computer up and running, Steam game streaming was available on the Wizard Tower. I've spent tons of hours playing Starfield and Valheim on my main laptop using this feature, and I've had great experiences for the most part. So, I hit stream. It runs flawlessly. I couldn't believe it. Didn't even report a full gigabyte of RAM usage, and the CPU had power to spare. If anything, I think that this experiment is more a testament to A, how awesome Debian is, and how crazy efficient game streaming has become. This PC is effectively 20 years old, with the Athlon CPU being from 2006, and it was able to play, although not necessarily run, a game made in 2023 at a really playable frame rate. Granted, running this game on bare metal was a nightmare. But keep in mind that when Steam is making games compatible for Linux, there is a ton of background processes happening with Proton, and that emulation layer takes up valuable resources from our already starved system. I think that maybe in a future video down the line, we'll continue to upgrade the Wizard Tower. I would like to see what a newer AM2 processor, or maybe even an AM3, I think those are compatible, can do in this system, and I wonder if we can get at least 4 gigabytes of RAM working. Both of those would be a significant boost. Let me know in the comments if that sounds interesting to you. Thank you for watching. These kinds of videos are my favorite to make, and likely they're going to become my focus from now on. Consider leaving a like and subscribing to the channel if you'd like to see more, or, if you really liked it, contributing to my Ko-Fi page. These videos take a lot of time and effort to create, and so even a small contribution goes a long way.